Hey Defenders, welcome back. In the previous video, we installed ClamAV, we downloaded the latest signature set, and then we ran some manual scans against files within our opt directory. I'll post a link to that video in the top right corner, but in this video, I want to show you guys how we can enable ClamAV to do on-access scanning. So what this will be able to do is we'll be able to tell ClamAV, hey, when a file hits this particular directory, let's go ahead and automatically scan it. So now I'm not having to jump onto a box to manually run these. That doesn't scale well at all. But we can tell ClamAV to scan files in real time and then alert us as well in real time, which is a nice little feature. This is only supported on Linux. Windows unfortunately does not support this feature, but is a nice feature that we can add onto all of our Linux endpoints. So stick around and we'll jump into it. And alright, so I'll go ahead and jump into our scan.conf of our ClamD configuration. In here, I'll navigate to the on-access portion of our ClamD config. So if we scroll down within their documentation, which I'll link in the description of this video as well, we'll need to set a few parameters. So here we'll need to set our on-access prevention. So if we scroll down to our on-access prevention, let's go ahead and remove the comment there to make sure it is set to yes. And then here let's also set our on-access exclude name to the name that ClamV is running as. So here we'll remove that. So what this option says is we don't want this setting to apply to our clam daemon that is running. So you could also, maybe you want this to also be excluded from the root user. You could also just copy and paste that and just specify the root user here. So ClamAV will see that, oh, this file was added by the root user. I'm not going to do any on-access prevention. So you can also add that there as well. But I'll delete that, and then we should be, oh, actually no. We need to now tell ClamAV what directories we want to include to be scanned. So here you'll see our blocks here where we can do an on-access include path. So with this demo, I'm just going to say our opt directory. But here you can do any path on your box, right? And you can list it out multiple times. So maybe if I want to say opt and then I want to say temp as well, you can add all these directories to be scanned here. And then what's also a nice feature is we can exclude particular paths as well. So maybe I have another directory within a path that I do want to watch. So let's say, so if we go back and I am in opt, so let's say I have a directory of please subscribe, and then I have another directory of open secure. But I only want to scan the please subscribe directory within the opt directory. So this is a nice little feature to add because there could be instances where you don't want to scan all the directories within a particular directory, but you want to exclude one. So here we can say opt, and let's say I want to scan the I want to exclude, the open secure directory. You can make that flag here. So now we'll scan every other directory within opt that is not open secure. So we can say that there, which is nice because with the on-access scanning, this will consume resources. So you don't want to tell ClamAV, hey, let's just scan the whole file system. That can really bog down your box. So maybe if you have like an app server that is outputting to like a log directory and that is constantly being written to, that may be something that you would want to exclude ClamAV scanning because file changes will always be occurring there. So that's just a little tip there, but we should be good to go. So I'll go ahead and save that all. And then I also like to enable this on access extra scanning. So this just allows ClamAV to scan a file directory as it's created or moved. So that's another nice little feature to add. And then there are some max file settings you can set. So like if a gigabyte file hits your server and you don't want ClamAV to scan it, because again that could consume a lot of resources, you can specify a max file size that you want ClamAV to scan against, and then you can also specify some threads as well. So you can kind of fine tune the resource consumption that ClamAV will take when it's doing this ad hoc scanning. So we'll go ahead and save this off, and then I'll go ahead and start the Clam daemon. And if we jump back into here, you'll see that our memory consumption will increase because, again, ClamAV is loading all of the malware signatures into memory. And then, all right, and so now that we have that, let's now start the ClamAV on access daemon. And this is started with the ClamAV ACC. They do say it needs to be run with elevated privileges. So if you're not already the root user, just run it with sudo. And so here we will say ClamAV ACC. And we should see that now start in the background here. And that'll start the ClamAV on access scanning in the background as well. And you can see that it has bounded to our TCP socket that we did in the last video. So if we do like a netstat, that's LTPND, you'll see that our Clam daemon is listening our TCP port 3310. So that looks good. If the ClamAV ACC can't connect to the daemon socket, then it'll output it'll output that error, so it won't start if it's not able to connect. So that looks good. And all right, so now that we have that configured, let's go ahead and see this guy in action. All right, so we got that started up. Something to note, this is taking advantage of the fan notify setting capability within the kernel. So that's how, at a low level, right, and this is how kind of the on-access scanning is working under the hood. We're taking advantage of this kernel feature, this fan notify. So there are some prereqs for this. You need to make sure that your kernel is above version 3.8, I believe. Where did I see that? Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, so you need to make sure your kernel is either the 3.8 or is greater than. And to find that out, you can just do a uname -rn, or yeah, rm works too. And here you can see I'm running 3.10. And you also need to make sure that your settings, that your kernel is configured for this fan notify. So to do that, we can, or to confirm that, or to make that change if it is set to no, we can open up our config of our kernel. So we go into config 1062, and then if we search for, we see that it is set to yes and to yes. So you need to make sure those are set, or else your ClamAV your on-access scanning won't work as you're intending it to. So, but okay, so we got that up and running, and kernel version and everything looks good. So now let's go ahead and grab a malicious file. So we'll grab this this known malware again, and now when we unzip it in real time, we should see ClamAV detected for us. And so if we do a unzip 203 and we give the password of infected, we should now see the Clam 8, and here we go. So Clam has immediately detected that, hey, this is malware. And if we ls it out, we see it exists, but we can't open it. So if I try to cat it, for example, we should get an operation not permitted, and that's what we see here. So now ClamAV is not allowing us to access this file in any way. If this was like a malicious bash script or something, we now wouldn't be able to run it, right? Because ClamAV is not allowing me to access this file. So any commands we try to use, if I try to nano it, for example, we get the same thing, operation not permitted. So it's not letting us interact with this no malicious file. We can also configure ClamAV to remove or auto quarantine this file for us. So let's go ahead and do that. And we'll do both examples here. So let me kill our ClamAV service. Let me grep for it real quick. So I'll kill the claimant on access scanning 9707, and then I'll kill our ClamAV. Okay, so now that that's killed, let's go ahead and start the clam daemon back up. And then let's run our clamon acc -help. And so now let's use that remove flag. So now we're going to tell the on access scanning, hey, when you detect something, let's remove it. So go ahead and start that up with --remove. Okay, good. And now let's grab our malware and let's unzip it. And we'll give it the flag as infected. And now we see, okay, it's found it. Okay, good. And now we also see that it has been removed. So here if we list our contents, we don't see it anymore. So now the file has been removed completely. So now we don't even have the chance to try to interact with it like what we just saw, which is great. And we can also do the same for copying into like a quarantined directory. So if we restart the ACC daemon here, let's run a kill -9 9742, and let's go ahead and let me cd into temp here, and I'll make a malicious. I'll just make a malicious directory. So, and we'll tell the clamon acc, let's go ahead and do, let's go ahead and move malicious files. Let's go ahead and move files that it's determined as malicious to our malicious directory here. So if we go ahead and run it with that, okay, that looks good. Let's go back into opt. Oh wait, that should still exist. Yeah, so let's go ahead and unzip this folder again. And now, so ClamAV is running, it's found it, and so now if we ls this, we see nothing here, and if we cd into our temp malicious directory, we now see the file that exists here. And so now we see the malware has been moved here, right? Which is awesome. And it doesn't exist anymore within our directory that we originally downloaded it to. And so now the scanning is happening in real time, and we're also proactively helping secure our endpoints because we are quarantining malicious files. So you can move your quarantine files into a directory that is owned by root, for example, so only the root user could get it, so it could access those quarantine files. Maybe you want to extract and run within a sandbox and do some of your own analysis. And having it owned by only the root user helps keep you, it still gives you access to, if it is a false positive, you can quickly move it back over. And still gives you access to the original file without auto removing it. And having it owned by root helps keep it to where only you or certain people can who know the root credentials can access it. Of course, if someone is already root on your box, then well, you're in trouble already. So so just make sure that it is owned by a user that only either being the root user, or maybe you set up a new user account that is very locked down and only certain people have access to it. But now we can do this ad hoc scanning of files as they hit our box, which is really nice. Do keep in mind though, you do want to, before mass rolling out, I highly advise kind of pinpointing directories that you want to exclude from scanning, because this can be very resource intensive on your box, as all antivirus software is. it can really bog down your system. So just make sure you do your due diligence to ensure that you're able to add this protection, but also get the processing power and speed that you require for your applications or whatever your servers are running to work correctly. And so that wraps it up for this video. In the next one, I will show you guys how we can get all of this outputted to Wazoo so that we can be alerted within our SIEM and pump these, into our SIEM to then alert our security team that, hey, we have detected malware on the box. So stay tuned for that one. And I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next one.